probably know, there's a war going on in the Middle East, and India is facing a crisis because of it. Right now, India imports 90% of its LPG through the Strait of Hormuz, and 33 crore Indian households are dependent on it. But India cannot just import the LPG from another country. Here's why. Let's start at the beginning. Where does LPG come from? When crude oil is refined, or when natural gas is processed, two gases separate out, propane and butane. Blend them in the right ratio, and you have LPG. This blending happens at the origin country, and India receives the finished product as LPG. But it still has to travel 2,000 kilometers. The ships that carry it are called VLGCs, or Very Large Gas Carriers, 225 meters long, the largest gas ships in the world. India's the MV Shivalik is one of them. Each voyage, Shivalik carries around 46,000 tons of LPG. India consumes almost 86,000 tons every single day. So one Shivalik cargo, one full voyage of the world's largest gas ship, covers around half of a single day of India's needs, which means India need that kind of ships every day. According to Kepler cargo data, India was receiving 40 VLGC-class ships per month before the war. But here's what everybody immediately asked when the strait closed. Can't India just buy from someone else? And the answer is more complicated than you think. Let me explain. Imagine you order food from the same restaurant every day. They deliver 10 meals. You eat 10 meals. It's perfect. One day, that restaurant shuts down. Now you need to find a new one, fast. But every other restaurant in the city either has no spare capacity, is too far away, or serves the wrong food. That is exactly where India is right now. Here are the reasons. Let's start with our friends, Russia. Russia's main LPG exporter, a company called SEBI, they ship out of a port on the Baltic Sea called Ust-Luga. But here's the problem. SEBI uses medium-sized ships, MGC class, each carrying 20,000 tons. India needs VLGCs, the largest class, carrying 46 to 48,000 tons each. And SEBI's entire output for 5 months in 2025 was 418,000 tons. India needs 1,660,000 tons every single month. And it isn't just about the size of the ships, it's about steel. Most of the world's LPG fleet is designed for the water, but to get gas out of Russia's Ust-Luga port in winter, you need ice-class vessels. These are specialized, reinforced ships that India simply doesn't have in its regular rotation. And it gets more complicated. Until EU sanctions fully kicked in December 2024, Europe was SEBI's original primary market. When EU sanctions banned Russian LPG, SEBI scrambled to find new buyers. India was one of the buyers, but SEBI only just resumed India shipments in May 2025. There are no long-term contracts, no guaranteed volumes, no dedicated ships. You might ask, what about the United States? The US is the world's largest LPG exporter. On paper, perfect alternative. But here's what most people don't know about how global LPG terminals work. US export terminals are not open markets. They work like apartment buildings where every flat is already rented out for 3 to 15 years, and the vast majority of their slots are locked into term contracts with buyers who signed years ago. Japan, South Korea, China, Europe, India is not one of those long-term tenants. And LPG is only half the story. India signed its very first US LPG term contract in late 2025. It covers 4 VLGCs per month. India needs 40. So the remaining supply, India has to find on the spot market. The spot market is where you buy what's left over after all the long-term contracts are filled. In normal times, spot cargoes are available. In a crisis, when everyone trying to buy the same spare cargoes at the same time, the price does not just rise, it explodes. And even if India wins those auctions, there is one more problem. A US cargo sailing around Africa, because Suez adds its own risk, takes over 40 days to arrive. A Middle East cargo takes 10 days. Russia doesn't have enough, the US is already spoken for, and neither of them can provide a solid Middle East replacement. That is why India cannot just switch suppliers. But if you are thinking war can stop tomorrow and oil and gas would start flowing as soon as possible, keep watching. The strait is no longer the only problem. India imports roughly 40% of its LNG from Qatar. A few days ago, Iran launched a missile strike on Ras Laffan, Qatar's industrial city, and the single largest LNG export hub on the planet. Israel had already targeted Iran's southern gas fields days earlier. It would probably take 3 to 5 years to restart. The conflict was now moving directly into energy infrastructure. And here is the structural problem nobody talks about. For crude oil, India maintains strategic petroleum reserves of few days, a buffer for exactly this kind of crisis. For LNG, there is no such reserve. On March 14th, the same day MV Shivalik and Nanda Devi made their passage through the strait together, carrying around 93,000 tons of LPG, the Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways held a press conference to announce their safe arrival. When a ship's safe passage through the strait became national news, that tells you everything about where India stands right now. And it isn't just LPG cylinders. India has around 1.6 crore PNG connections and over 70 lakh CNG vehicles. All of them run on gas that ultimately traces back to the same supply chain problem. LPG was the first domino. LNG and CNG could be next.